Learn English through story. Lovers in the Shadows. The year was 1978, a time when Barcelona was emerging from the long shadows of dictatorship, its citizens eager to reclaim a city stifled by decades of silence. Yet in the rush of freedom, the city's ancient stones still held secrets, stories whispered only at night. Miguel Dominguez was a man shaped by the secrets of the city. At 37, he'd spent over a decade as an investigative journalist, exposing corruption, unearthing long-buried truths, and risking his life for the cause of transparency. Tall and weary, with dark eyes that seemed to pierce through layers of pretense, he'd made many enemies. Miguel wore his history on his face, a deep scar on his brow from a scuffle years ago, crow's feet from countless sleepless nights, and a gaze that held traces of tragedy from his time covering the war. His work was his life, his crusade, his burden, and perhaps his only solace. Then came Isabella Santoro. At 34, Isabella was fiercely intelligent, refined yet mysterious. Her presence was magnetic, commanding, yet always just out of reach. She moved with a quiet elegance, a natural grace that came from years of studying art in Europe's finest museums and archives. She had trained in Florence, where she'd fallen in love with Renaissance art and discovered a fascination with rare, even dangerous artifacts, items that might contain hidden messages or coded secrets left by masters of the past. Isabella was in Barcelona to work with the Museo Nacional, curating an exhibition on Spanish religious artifacts, but her quiet exterior hid a life steeped in secrecy. Isabella belonged to La Orden del Sagrado Saber, an underground group of scholars and historians dedicated to preserving forbidden knowledge and protecting powerful relics that, in the wrong hands, could alter the course of history. Their worlds collided on a stormy October night. Miguel, fresh off an expose on local politicians laundering funds, had attended an exhibition at the Museo Nacional on a whim. Needing a respite from his work, Isabella was presenting an illuminated manuscript recently discovered in a monastery in the Pyrenees, work believed to contain mystical, encoded messages intended to evade the Inquisition's censorship. As Miguel observed her from across the room, he felt a peculiar pull. Isabella's passionate explanation of the manuscript's symbols captivated him. She described symbols and patterns that he recognized from his own investigation into an elusive group he had traced through whispers and rumors, a secret society manipulating events from the shadows. His journalistic instincts flared, but there was also something in Isabella's demeanor, a guarded look in her eyes, that piqued his curiosity on a personal level. After the crowd thinned, Miguel approached her, feeling compelled to break through her cool exterior. They spoke briefly at first, a formal exchange of polite words. Yet in that moment, an undeniable connection sparked between them. He asked about the manuscript, and she explained the story behind the symbols, but with a careful vagueness, as though choosing each word as a chess player would plan each move. Over the following weeks they met often, at first by chance, then by design. Coffee dates turned into late-night dinners, where they delved deeper into art, history, and finally, their own guarded pasts. They became confidants. Isabella told him of her work preserving artifacts, of her commitment to protecting knowledge that some believed should remain hidden. Miguel, in turn, shared stories of his own confrontations with corrupt officials, his belief that the public deserved to know the truth even if it meant he would live in constant danger. For the first time, Miguel found someone who understood the shadows he lived in, and Isabella felt that Miguel's resilience, his fierce honesty, was like a shield that could protect her from the treacherous world she navigated. Their love was sudden but fierce. They couldn't escape each other's presence, couldn't resist the pull of a connection that seemed fated, as if it had existed in their hearts long before they had met. Their love was their sanctuary, a hidden refuge where they could let down the walls they held up for the world. But the life they led together was never simple. They moved through the city like whispers in the night, meeting in hidden alcoves, exchanging coded messages, knowing their love was both salvation and danger. One night, as they lay entwined in Miguel's cramped apartment, Isabella opened up about a discovery. She had made a book unlike any other she had ever seen, known in her circle as El Libro de los Sombras. It's said to contain the key to unlocking history's most tightly held secrets. She whispered, her voice barely above a breath, who ruled from the shadows, who shaped events that changed the world. But it's in a language no one has ever been able to decipher fully. A cipher made to be impenetrable. Miguel was transfixed. Why hasn't your society decoded it? We've tried. Every attempt has failed, as though the book itself resists interpretation. But some believe that the cipher holds more than history. It contains secrets that even we might not want to uncover. As she spoke, Miguel's journalist's mind went into overdrive. The story he could publish from a book like that, its revelations, its implications was almost beyond imagination. Yet he knew Isabella's position was delicate, and he respected her wish to keep the book secret. Even so, the idea consumed him, becoming an obsession he shared only with her. Over time, Miguel noticed small changes in Isabella. She became more guarded, her usually calm demeanor clouded by worry. One evening, as they walked along the beach under the cover of night, she confessed that her work with La Orden had grown dangerous. The society isn't just interested in preserving artifacts, Miguel, she said, her voice trembling. They want control, absolute control over what is remembered and what is forgotten. And they're watching me, watching us. The realization hit them both. They were no longer safe. The society's influence reached farther than they had realized, and its members had noticed Miguel's investigations and Isabella's closeness to him. Their lives had become a chessboard, with each move carefully scrutinized, each step monitored by unseen eyes. For months, Miguel and Isabella carried on with their lives, careful not to reveal their fears, yet each glance, each shared touch bore the weight of unspoken anxiety. They knew they had to act, but they didn't know whom to trust. One fateful night, Isabella came to Miguel with an envelope in hand, her face pale. "They've sent a warning," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Inside were photographs of her and Miguel together, taken from a distance, in the shadows, and a note, scrawled in elegant but ominous handwriting: "Turn back, or face the consequences." Miguel knew they were too deep to turn back now. He resolved to continue, to find a way to expose the society's influence, no matter the cost. They devised a plan, seeking out old allies and contacts Miguel trusted. They contacted an underground journalist who could publish anonymously, ensuring the truth would come to light without linking it to them. Their efforts led them to the hills outside Barcelona, where they spent weeks hiding in a small, abandoned villa. Days and nights blurred into each other as they worked to decode the book, translating fragments and sending messages through a network of allies. Their love grew fiercer in the silence, a tether to keep them from drowning in fear and exhaustion. They spent their last night together lying under the stars, speaking of the life they would lead if they ever escaped. "Someday," Isabella murmured, "we'll walk these streets in the daylight. We won't have to hide. I'll show you the world I've only glimpsed in my books." In the morning, they woke to the sounds of footsteps outside. Their sanctuary had been found. The society's agents had come for them. Isabella, barely dressed, clutched the book close to her chest, her eyes wide with fear and defiance. Miguel stood beside her, his expression set in determination. In a blur of tension and negotiation, the agents took them to an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city. For hours, Miguel and Isabella were separated, interrogated, threatened, but their silence was unwavering. Finally, realizing their captors wouldn't break them, they were released, but with one final warning. In a stroke of determination, Miguel and Isabella managed to get the book to their contact in the underground press. Within days, the story of El Libro de los Sombras began to leak, hinting at the society's influence over politics, religion, and history itself. The world took notice, and the society's grip weakened under the weight of public scrutiny. Barcelona buzzed with rumors, conspiracy theories, and protests, as people speculated about who had exposed the hidden truths. But no one knew the true identities of the lovers in the shadows, who had brought the truth to light. Miguel and Isabella knew they could never return. They left Barcelona behind, journeying through Spain's rugged countryside, finding solace in each other's presence, knowing they could never truly be free, but no longer had to live in fear. In the quiet of their hidden world, they remained lovers in the shadows, bound by truth, loyalty, and a love forged in darkness. And as they moved forward, always one step ahead of the world that hunted them, they found a peace that had once been unimaginable, a love that had survived the shadows and would continue in whatever fragments of freedom they could find. In this longer version, their journey through danger, trust, and ultimate defiance is fleshed out more fully, creating an emotional and suspenseful portrayal of two people bound by love, truth, and resilience. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoy, then please like and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel.